All right, we are on session 5, small groups, leadership and implementation. In this, well, let me ask, all the groups, all the retreats do small groups of some sort or another?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think so.
No?
Not all of them.
No. No.
New Jersey doesn't.
New Jersey doesn't?
It's really
New
small.
Jersey does it, it's so small.
Okay. It is a small group.
One big small group.
Okay. Hey, focus, please. How do we do at our small groups? Do we do well? Or are there challenges?
Little column A, little column B.
Okay. So I've been to a couple different retreats and been in small groups. Granted, because I deal with this all the time and I teach it on a university level, I'm a little pickier, but I think we've got some pretty hefty challenges ahead in the small group department. I would, if we were grading, I would give it D-.
Ouch.
Some big challenges. Okay? That's what we're going to talk about today. How do we do that better?
Okay.
So the question I want you to wrestle with in your small groups is not on the paper. It's right here. Why do we do small groups and how can we do them better? Let's determine where we are before we move forwards. Okay? Why do we do small groups and how can we do them better? Answer it in your context first, and then if you're struggling there, raise your hand or think outside your context more into the Christian environments that you're in. Small groups, what we want to do is begin to develop a mindset around small groups, okay? If we can do them I can do a small group effectively anywhere. Doesn't matter if it's Came to Believe or with an AA group or in church, it doesn't matter because I understand the mindset and the things that go into healthy and effective small groups. That's what I want you guys to walk away with is some new tools, okay? So, yes, John.
In order to answer this question, shouldn't we kind of have, ask ourselves, what is the outcome we're looking for out of the small group instead of where we are?
That would be a great bullet item for you to put on your sheet. Bring that bullet item because that's something we want to engage, okay? And that's exactly the kind of thing. You know, so often our answers to questions are more questions. And if that's what you come up with, I mean, you should see my notes for the last 3 months. I have thousands of questions. I have very little answers. So feel free to ask more questions. We want to wrestle with this a little bit. So you have papers back there. Go back to your small groups. Let's wrestle with this concept and then we'll come back in 20 minutes. All right, so share with me what you guys came up with about why we do small groups and how we can do them better.
I'm Cecily, I'm a recovered alcoholic. We do to develop intimacy, be more comfortable, more healing, more engagement, reflect and respond, discover and develop gifts. That's kind of the first thing.
That's pretty good. It's pretty comprehensive.
I like that.
All right, yeah, that's good.
I like that.
Number 2 is continue to encourage and bring out the value of the leaders. Talk less, listen more. Lead, not control. Pull info, don't give it. And group leader training.
So talk less, listen more. You're making a pretty big assumption there because I've seen a whole lot of talking more and listening less in small groups. Have you guys ever encountered that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So how do you avoid that?
I think it's like the group leader's responsibility or kind of task to stay on top of that and put your hand up, say, well, hold on, let's let everybody share.
I think, okay.
Not yet. Okay, great. Thank you. Number 5, we'll get to that.
I'm afraid it's me again.
Good. I wanna just.
No worries, Mike.
Good job.
All right.
Hi, I'm Dee. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Okay, so the question, why do we do small groups and how can we do them better? Where we are, we've just positioned where we were first, and we've basically around the room, there was a retreat that's in pretty good shape in our groups, in that they're not just willy-nilly groups, they've got objectives, they know why they're there, and then there were a couple of groups, well, I'm going to use our groups as examples, which I think that, basically a couple of days before, I'll just go who's coming to the retreat, and then I'll go, oh, right, they can lead the Step 5 workshop. And there is some handouts, but it's not very well organised, in my opinion, of my own retreat that I'm involved in. So and there are people who want to tell their own stories that aren't relevant and take over just the stuff that we experience with ourselves here, and leaders use it being chosen late and being unprepared. So you can give all sorts of excuses why you've had to choose leaders late, because I've got loads of excuses why I've had to choose leaders late and not have people not being prepared. But reality is, it's still not good enough, if you know what I mean. So we've solutions. So we felt the big solution, the big issue is around facilitation skills, and and we've learned here, we've got an excellent facilitator here, and we're just very lucky to have someone who can do that. It's a skill. And so if people are going to be trained on facilitation, it will involve maybe us not being focused on, as leaders, maybe the main leader, on so many tasks that we're not, that we can't focus on making sure the leaders of the groups are well supported and looked after. And one of the things that my problem is that I try and do everything. And, and God keeps going like this. And then I go, I'm really tired. Okay, so if there's going to have better training for facilitators, they would learn then by having training that they could be gentle but firm and loving and able to tell people to be quiet, or can you're speaking rather a lot, or give somebody else a chance. There's actually a skill to doing that without offending, without causing offence, or people will take offence anyway sometimes, but the reality is that, if you're skilled in doing it, it will be done in the right way. That it should be time-bound, learning how to have time-bound groups so people are clear what, the expectations. That afterwards, after the retreat, after the small groups, that there would be opportunities for leaders debrief on themselves, and anybody that's involved with the groups would be able to have a debrief on how it had gone, ask people who've attended how they felt about it. All I ever get is someone, oh, that was a good group from somebody, and I go, oh, that's all right then. And and then a couple of retreats ago, we had two guys had almost like a stand-up row, and I was one side with one guy going, that person's done this, and I went over the other side, and that person's done that. Well, there was no organisation or clear leadership suggested. So the final recommendation that we sort of had was that you would, for each, whatever the group, it doesn't matter what the title of the group is, that you would have 2 to 3 questions that have been organised, that have been pre-prepared, bullet points, that could be used as guides, which we talked about with the opening remarks. We said that we would have like bullet points, and that taking advantage of the shadowing. So yeah, I'm the first time back as a returnee, but this guy's 6 times at a retreat. Stick with him. You know, actually doing what I've heard Jean has done, which is, you know, like literally saying, you're with this guy, you know, and why not? You know, that's good. So that was our suggestions.
Okay. So is it fair to assume that we're seeking continuity in our small groups regardless of the environment?
Yes.
Okay. So you brought up the concept of a debrief. And that's a great concept. And it's vitally important, but going from concept to successful application, and there are some challenges. In the special forces, in the military, they call the debrief an after-action report. And in all of my small groups, I've carried that concept of an after-action report into it. One of the things that's required for a successful after-action report is a template. Every single after-action report should always be exactly the same. You should answer the same questions. And the questions should be reflective of where you want to go. So that's one of the things that we've kind of wrestled with. We've talked a lot around small groups. The small groups in Came to Believe are the lowest hanging fruit for making improvement. There is now in your handout, in your packets, there is a thing on small group leadership guidelines. And these are good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're brief.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we're talking about is making that better. But would that help you if you had a template of an after-action report that you could use every time?
Yes,
Okay.
really helpful.
Good, thank you.
Good job, Dee. Thank you.
I do love being here. You're so encouraging.
Number 4, yeah? Is that what's next? 6, 5, 4. Did I say 4? Yep. All right, you guys know who's next. Whoever's next is come on.
Here you go.
All right.
I'm April and I'm a recovered alcoholic. Hey. Our group, I better undo this. Okay, our group, we said, why are we doing the small groups? And our answer was so that we can get to know each other on a personal level. And that small group creates an environment where people feel more comfortable speaking out and asking questions. And it is a really good environment for building relationships and for participation. And then how do we do that better? We encourage people to try them. So if anyone's not doing small groups, go ahead and give it a shot. To have good leadership, and you can only have that if we have people supporting and giving guidance to those folks who are leading the small groups. One of the things that I've experienced, and I'm not reflecting badly on anyone, because I'm okay with like, here, go do this, and I'll run and do it to the best of my ability. If you want something done a very specific way, then you need to let me know exactly how you want it done, because otherwise I'm just going to do the best I can with it. So to have guidelines, that's cool. I had not seen that before. November, I came and visited here in November and saw the small group guidelines for the leader. I'm like, oh wow, they had a leader meeting beforehand. Okay, that's a great idea. But be flexible as far as if you try something and it doesn't work, to be able to meet with your team leaders and say, okay, this didn't work, we need to try this. Be persistent. I think giving something a shot one time and then, oh, that didn't work, let's throw the whole thing out. That's maybe not the best way to go. And preparation, don't wing it, which oftentimes I'm left winging things. And to have someone to shadow, and we talked about that earlier at some point, is having like the person who's really, really good at it, and then pulling that other person into the group several times so that they can sit and just see how that works before they're actually in charge of it.
April, do you think that the knowledge level of the participants in the small group affects the ability to lead the small group?
No. Because the leader, if they are well prepared, it's irrelevant about the knowledge of the participants sitting in the group.
So I want to push on that a little bit. Actually, what I've found is the knowledge level of the participants affects the small group greatly. And the hardest small group to lead of any kind is where you have no knowledge and expert. To bridge that gap is unbelievably difficult, and it takes years and years of practice. So the knowledge level, look, this weekend as a facilitator, what I've done is lead a small group with you guys. Your knowledge level is very high. And in the last several sessions, you guys are knocking it out. You're hitting on all cylinders, you're interacting with the material. My job is very easy. Your knowledge level is very high. If I wanted to lead a small group on Came to Believe and your knowledge level was very low, if you were novices to this, if it was all Robins, it would be much, much harder to facilitate, because then the small group leader or the facilitator is responsible for both facilitation and content. This weekend with you, I'm not really responsible for content. You've managed your own content. I've just helped you find it. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, group 3.
Thanks, April.
Good job, April.
Thanks, April.
Who's next? Group 3? All right, what you got?
All right, basically what we have is, first question. What was the first question? Why do we have small groups? Well, there's pretty good reasons for it that we could find. We got to give the newcomer a chance to open up a little bit. We want to promote intimate fellowship. We don't want people to just think that they're here hearing lectures and, you know, getting talked to and stuff like that. We want them to feel, you know, welcome and comfortable and warm and fuzzy. And to answer any questions that they might have, you know, we want them to feel like, you know, their questions and their concerns are important to us, and we want them to, you know, feel like they're a part of this whole thing, which is the goal, really. How can we make them better? We have, for leaders, to make sure that the group leader is qualified and prepared, which Dee spoke about, you know, giving us a heads up and giving us plenty of time to prepare and letting us know what's, you know, expected of us as far as being group leaders. And there's a lot of things, you know, that we could all agree on that we've experienced. Somebody trying to dominate, whether it's, you know, a group leader like myself, thinking I know everything, trying to just, this is the way that it is, and you guys are going to accept it, and people can feel, you know, intimidated and, you know, stuff like that. Or somebody coming in who has 29 years and, you know, sees things totally differently. You have to be able to, you know, be slow to speak, quick to listen, and be able to diffuse those situations as they come up, so everybody has an opportunity to, you know, share. And usually, like, you know, we have the guidelines, and a lot of the things that we talk about in the groups is what's going on in the retreat. What did you think about the speaker? You know, what did you think about, we encourage you to go through the steps and stuff like that. So it's really not, it's not like group therapy or anything like that, you know, where we have things that we're supposed to stick to, and I think it's the group leader's responsibility to make sure that we stick to those things and everybody gets a chance to share. And so that's what we got.
Shelby, would you say that you're a good small group leader?
If I get out of the way, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the qualities that make you a good small group leader?
Humble, submissive to God, not afraid to use my authority in the group, and direction, focused on the direction that we're going.
I think Shelby's a good small group leader too. But I think another quality that he didn't mention is, and this overcomes a lot of things, Shelby has a big heart, and you never doubt how much he cares for the people. That overcomes a lot of deficits in other skill sets. And so when in doubt, care more. It'll make up for a lot in your small groups. Thank you, Shelby. All right. Number 2. Who's number 2? Okay, what you got? Who's picking at you, Liz?
For the first question, the why, because we would like to be more intimate, more educational, more of a safe place, to draw the new people out, and to get better connections. And for the how, we believe we need to be more intentional on picking/training group leaders, and that at least one person in the group needs to have experience. And kind of where we're at, just to sum up this little bottom, is in Amory, we do 2 to 3 meetings before the retreat with just me and Jean on who we believe a good group leader would be, what we think of the group leaders that were leading at the last retreats, how we could improve and step up a newcomer into a leadership position. During the retreat, we have our ear to the ground the whole time, summing up every session, talking about it with Sharon and Harv, as well as Jean, about how the group leaders did. After the retreat, we debrief, we talk about any situations we had that arose, and we talk about not only the group leaders, but the newcomers, and each person we go through and say, man, that person did a good job. I see a lot of potential in this person. This person, we should try to get up into this position in the next retreat, and then we do the process again. So,
Cool, thank you.
Good job, Sean. Way to go, number 2.
All right, number 1.
You just like hanging out together.
Okay, you gotta hold one side. Here, hold that side. There we go. All right, I got it. All right. Okay, take that out of there. There we go.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Debbie. I'm a grateful recovering addict and alcoholic.
Hi, Deb.
We only had one answer for the
Okay.
first question,
Why?
to make everybody feel important,
Okay, I like that.
period. Everybody's important in the group,
I
old,
like
new,
that.
whatever. I don't know about you, but I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. Okay, knowledge is a gift, but a newcomer's a gift. They teach me, and I gotta remember that. And as far as, we focus mostly on how to make the groups better. Because
Okay.
for me, we already know, I don't know, that's just, whatever, we already know why we need small groups. To create intimacy, it's the same answer for everything. But I think the most important thing is to make them feel important. Everybody's important. The next thing, as far as making the groups better, equal participation. I may be a little bit strict, and I love what Shelby said. Because we really focus, when I go to my meetings, we focus on equal participation. They have timers. You know, out west, we used to say, anything over 3 minutes is selfish self-centeredness. So I like meetings where they got the timers. And I try to keep that way, because I want everybody to feel important. And listening. I listen very closely. And I try to teach them to listen. Because Grace used to say, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And sometimes I have to hear for the hurt and the pain. But also look at the good of each person that's in that group and try to see those gifts. And pray. Make sure we pray. Pray. And I try to have each person take turns to pray.
Oh.
What? Well,
Yeah.
not people that are new so
Okay.
much.
I can't let that go. If that's where you arrive, but we gotta push on that tension, because it's a whopper.
Yeah, I know, because you don't want to scare them.
Yeah, and a lot of the returnees, they don't wanna pray out loud in a
Oh,
group
no.
either. So, while that can be really effective if you know the people that are in your small group,
Yep.
If you don't,
No,
do not do that.
no, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been coming for a little while, so
Yeah.
I kind of know about that too. And smaller groups. Unfortunately, we have such a great staff here, and Kim and Suzanne do the groups. And unfortunately, because we have like 120 people, we only get to have 10 groups. We have 10 people in a group, and that's hard to focus with the new people and the old timers to get that adequacy of the time and intimacy. So if we can get the groups smaller and train up the leaders and more leaders, that would help to have more intimacy. Okay. And the other thing is to let them know when we go into our groups, and I think we do focus on this, but also to make sure we specifically bring up about the steps. The focus of my small groups, not always that, but to make sure that they know that they need to go the steps. Whether they're an old timer, person with time, but make sure that we try to direct them to go to the steps specifically before they do loving relationships, okay? And structured formats, when we do those structured formats that we get in our, the thing for the leaders, it's got those questions, and try to stick to that, so when they go off in another direction, we can pull them back in. And that's really important, really important. And the other thing too is to rotate leaders. Okay, I don't know, but Grace, when she was sponsoring me, when I do any type of thing with her, when someone get led to the Lord, right after prayer and praise, and even with groups, not right away, I'm just saying I have to talk to them and train them up and get them through the steps. The next time they come to retreat, they would sit with me in group and watch how we are leading groups and listen and watch.
Can I just get you to hold up there, because what you said and what you described, you actually were two different things.
Okay.
Rotate leaders, no. What you described, yes. You described mentoring.
Right.
This does not describe mentoring,
Okay.
okay? So would I rotate leaders? No. Would I do exactly what she said? Absolutely. Bring them in, let them sit with you, let them walk through the groups, make them a part of right away.
Yeah.
But rotating leaders, it's hard to get
Yeah,
qualified
I agree.
people.
You're right. Absolutely.
And so certainly in the beginning, I would be real specific about do the mentoring. That's
Oh, yeah.
excellent. I just
Okay.
wanted to make that distinction.
Oh, yeah, big time, because we don't want to scare them away. It's not what we're about. And then, well, we had this idea, but this would be kind of hard. Maybe the smaller retreats can do this, where you separate the newcomers and you have a newcomers meeting, but you have two people with a lot of time. I'm not saying, these are just ideas, maybe to help the newcomers, because a lot of times they kind of get off on a stray, but then again, that's just an idea. And then the other one was second timers. Those would be the ones where we're mentoring, training, to have two elders or two leaders training up on their group, and then the mentors training. So it's
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay. Let's ask some questions here. On Friday night, I heard a few different things about the small groups, but what do we keep coming back to when we engage people? What's our question? What are we asking? Where are we? Okay. If I'm talking about the steps, if I'm talking about what did you think about the speaker, if I'm talking about anything other than engaging those people with where they are, it's going to be real hard for me to engage them the rest of the weekend. So I would encourage you to think about on Friday night in your first small group when you do them, make it about where are we? Because it sets the tone then for the whole weekend. It draws in the people in the small group. It makes them feel like you care. It invests them. They hear common thing. Oh, I'm struggling with this or that, or my wife is left me, or blah, blah, blah. So is the guy next to him, and all of a sudden you got buddies. Okay? So where are we does a lot. And I would just encourage you to think about that. Does discipleship happen in a small group? Okay. Or is discipleship a vehicle to facilitate, or is a small group a vehicle to facilitate discipleship? See, there's a difference between those two statements. I don't think discipleship happens in a small group as much as a small group is a vehicle that facilitates discipleship. Discipleship, mentoring, sponsorship, it's one-on-one. Okay? Small groups facilitate that. Relationships are built that lead to that. Okay? So often, like with, what's your name, Debbie? With Debbie, I just helped distinguish between two things that she said. Okay? This is just distinguishing between two things. It isn't that you have to completely reframe what you think about it. It's let's just put it in the proper frame of reference with all the outside variables considered. Okay? Let me ask you a question. What is the largest that a small group should ever be?
10.
6, 10,
Actually,
8,
smaller than that, 5, I think.
5.
100.
So 100. Is 100 too big?
How much time?
No, it doesn't make
I want to challenge you with something, okay? And 100 people for a small group sounds absurd. But the size of the small group is directly related to the training level of the leader. I've led small groups. Matter of fact, I did it every Saturday night for a year of 100 plus people. We did a recovery worship service, and we treated it just like a small group. There were some hurdles that we had to overcome that we were able to do, and it took a team of 2 of us that work seamlessly together. But the size isn't the big thing. Yeah, it's called a small group. But size is directly related to the training of the leader. Now, having said that, what is the single most important quality that leader does well?
Listen.
preparation.
Preparation, control, listen, training. Sort of, okay? Listening is on the right track.
Active listening, that they could take an idea and then, just like you did with Debbie, you caught that about the difference between changing leadership versus what
Right.
she was really trying to,
Right.
her definition
So
of it.
that's what I'm getting at. The single most important quality for a successful small group leader is to be able to do what's called interactive listening. I mean, I can listen to you all day long and you get nothing from my attention. But a small group leader needs to be able to listen to the information, take it in, process it, turn it around, and give it back to you that continues to point the group as a whole in the direction that the vision or the outcome suggests. Interactive listening, okay? It is a skill that takes a tremendous amount of practice. But one of the ways you can practice that is to listen to somebody and then you begin by just giving back to them what they said. You got to begin to do that. And it sounds very pedantic and rudimentary, but listen to what somebody says and then give it back to them. We used to practice that skill in the class I taught. And once they do that, then listen to what they said and then give it back to them, but have shaped it in a different language. You know, how it's presented. Once they do that, shape it in a different language in a way that draws people to the next point or towards the overall goal. Okay? You do not learn interactive listening on your own. It's a skill set that has to be coached. Simple as that. So, this brings me to something we discussed on Thursday. Would it be beneficial to you and to Came to Believe as a whole if there was a training module created with video, maybe some sort of plan for interactive Skype or Google Hangouts things with a full training module, so that if you say, oh, I want to be better at small groups, you can say, well, can you send me that? You want to start a new group? Well, here's a training module, and here's some resources. Would that be a beneficial thing to you guys?
Absolutely. Anything that's going to make it better.
Jean has ceased to pay attention to me, but I think that's something that Jean and we talked briefly about, and I'm hoping that he'll work on with me. Because to tailor it specifically to Came to Believe would be outstanding. I think we could make Came to Believe so much better with so little effort. To go from an average or poor small group to a good one is pretty simple. But to go from a good one to a great one takes a huge amount of work.
Absolutely.
It's that last 10% that's so hard. And you guys can do it. It's just about investing the time.
Yeah.
You're all qualified because you love the material, you know the material, and I mean, who are we here for?
Yes. And God's going to help us.
God's got your back.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take a, what time is dinner?
5:45.
Okay. We're going to take a 15-minute break and then come back and then, hold on, I'll tell you, and then the Came to Believe Sunday morning share sessions. Is everyone familiar with what I'm talking about? Steve and Jack, I think, are going to come up and just share with us about those so that we can all try and get on the same page, and maybe we'll have some time for a few questions.
About a 10-minute break.
How about a 10-minute break? 10 minutes it is.